when you're in the locker room, those are your teammates, but it's also a cultural difference where we can understand certain things that don't even have to be explained.
All right, so joining us today, he is a versatile Major League Baseball veteran who's left his mark over 7 seasons in the league, from winning the Detroit Tigers Rookie of the Year in 2018 to becoming a respected leader on and off the field. He's now a free agent gearing up for his next big move. Let's give a warm welcome to my man, Niko Goodrum. What's up, bruh?
Not much. I appreciate y'all having me.
Man, thank you for being here, man. Let's jump right on into it, man. Historic deals, man, seem to be on the horizon in Major League Baseball, like Juan Soto's $765 million contract and Ohtani's $700 million deal. What are your thoughts when you hear about these mega contracts? They Powerball contracts.
Yeah. I just think it's a lot of money out there. That's all I hear is it's a lot of money to be made, and that there is a kind of a hole when you talk about the difference of pay, right? So you talk about, you hear someone making 700 million, right? But then you turn around and see how many people aren't making a million. And that's the problem that we see as players that are in here, because we sacrifice, we work hard, we go out there and do it, but you're seeing someone be able to pay someone $51 million a year. You made a deal to do that for 15 years. And so at that point, the players, because there's going to be more players like myself than it is that's going to be making 51 million a year, that money just got to start making sense when you talk about everyone else in the league, because it takes a team to go out there and win those games. So I think trying to make the MLB see that we're gonna take care of everybody in this space, where certain people don't have to go get some jobs after playing so long in the major league, which is the highest level of baseball.
Yeah, no doubt. Do you think it's unrealistic
So
expectations for the teams and the players, or is this justified with these record-breaking deals?
when you talk about that much money, um, it just lets you know how much money is really being made. There's nothing really else to go from there. Just to say, like, look, for me to pay one person $51 million this year, I make a lot of money. And you start to see that it's a business for these businessmen. So whoever owns the Mets probably owns a couple more companies, right? And you can just keep going down the list. And so when I was with Detroit, our owner owned the Red Wings and Little Caesars Pizzas. So you start to realize that, okay, Detroit Lions is a business he owns, and then the Red Wings is a business, and then Little Caesars is a business, right? And you start to just find out that we are just part of the business that they own. And so they have a lot of money that they make if you can pay someone 51 million. And at that point, you start to kind of see that TV deals that they may sign, the apparel, all these different deals that come into play, that just is, there's a lot of money to be made, and it's a good thing if you can get a piece of it.
Yeah, a piece of it, and I'm sure Little Caesars Pizza is in their Tiger Stadium too. So
For sure.
they know how to cross market. Let me ask you this. I know that Soto, he reportedly took the Mets over the Yankees, and there's a lot of perks that come with being a professional player in any sport. But they seemingly offered his family, a private suite.
Yeah, I heard that.
What you think when you heard that, man? Saying in terms of the negotiations as well.
Oh, I mean, you gotta make the deal sweeter, because I've experienced with certain players with certain contracts. Sometimes the team requires you to pay for a suite, for the season. That would be part of the deal, and then you go and and find out that the Yankees didn't offer. I think that's what it was. Like, they was like, "Yo, we didn't even do this for Jeter or these players, right?" And Mets like, we'll do it, and it's a bidding war. It's all about, hey man, we'll give you a suite. And when you start to think about it, if I'm paying someone 51 million,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
But
okay. Yeah, you got a suite. The it's food, drinks, all on us. We got it.
yeah.
Might as well. If I'm gonna pay you 51 million,
Mm-hmm.
what's gonna hurt to have some food and drinks in there for you every game? Every time my family want to show up.
Yeah.
So I just think it's just good business.
Okay.
It's nothing. It's
Understood.
just good business there.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I've heard that the commissioner is thinking about this golden at bat rule. What do you think that's going, or how do you think that's going to impact the game?
I just think you starting to change the game for real. Like you're starting to go in there and say, okay, if I can pick a player at any time that I want. So say, oh, okay, Aaron Judge is here. We're just gonna take, for example, right? And then since you brought the Yankees up, I'll use Aaron Judge is here. Then I want him to hit again. So if Aaron Judge is on second base, do I put a runner out there and then let him come to the plate and try to hit again? And I just think it's baseball, man, and what you're doing to each player is like, so it's my time to hit and go and feed my family. No, hey, come back. We're gonna let so and so hit, and now I'm looking at you like, as the player, right? Because I still have, hey man, I do this too. Like I still have my name that I want to go out there and do because it is a business. So it's like, how does that end up looking towards the player that you decide to hit for, right? And I just think it kind of gets in the way of it because I know we're entertainment, but at the same time it's like they're not adding a 5 point line in an NBA. Now if you shoot it from half court, it's 5 points. And in football, it's just certain things of the game that's like we're going through the lineup. And that's is I think that you got to be firm about certain things within the rules of the game. That this is baseball, and in baseball we do this now. Savannah, the Savannah Bananas. Let that be for the Savannah Bananas. Like play game with no lights, and we got neon jerseys. Like allow that to be some type of other entertainment that's not MLB, where we have a lot of money at stake. Now that they started adding in guys are betting on just the same way they bet with boxing or this and that. You added that into the game. I just think it's kind of tricky when you're doing this stuff because a lot of money's at stake when you talk about playoffs. The next round of playoffs, I get more money in my share. Like I get like so it's a lot of things that I just think that as a player we see it for what that is, but they're trying to run a business, and I think if you look at it that way, the commissioner is just trying to run a business and he works for the owners. He doesn't work for the players. The commissioner works for the owners, and he's trying to make the more entertaining for the people, and so you see the job that he's trying to do. So it's just you know I think you just got to keep baseball for what the certain
So
rules.
should it stay more traditional? Because I know there's been a lot of fan backlash with the way fans may be perceiving the game straying away from the traditional side.
Yeah, I think because that's the game that people you fall in love with,
Yeah.
and when you talk about say my dad he fell in love with the game for what it was. So did I. So now you're bringing in everyone that's playing baseball now fell in love with the game for the way it is. And so you got to think a 7-year-old right now knows the game and is being taught the game the way it is. So that goes from, you know, if I have a son next year, I'm going to teach him the game I know.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so all those players that are coming up from, they're playing T-ball and baseball, they're being taught that we hit through the lineup. We play the game this way, and then so those are gonna be the players that you're gonna have in the major league next that know the game a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
think that it's just the game just needs to be how the game was created, and certain things you can tinker with, but at the end of the day, it's kind of just like, you know, what's gonna work and what's not gonna work, and you'll find it out just going through it.
Yeah. Let's talk about representation. Obviously, baseball has been known for, a lot of, groundbreaking, just players breaking the, saying the racial barriers that obviously were in place. But now, what can MLB do to increase representation and an opportunity for African American players in the sport? I know you from the A. This is a different type of
Yeah.
city. It ain't a lot of cities like this out here, saying around the country or around the world. But, what do you see having played this sport?
Well, it starts with how expensive it is to play, what it takes to play. It's kind of a sport that to play the sport, you need other people around. So like with basketball, I need a basketball and a goal. Sometimes I don't even need a goal. I could just make me right, or I can just put things, meaning like a chair in front of me and work on my crossover and get shots up, and that can translate, right? But when you talk about baseball, say they don't have anything. So what we gonna do? We just gonna right? So that's when you saw people start throwing rocks with broomsticks, right? You start to see, but at that point, I need someone to throw me the rock. So what if I don't have anybody? I'm just throwing rocks up and hitting them with a stick. That's not gonna be good enough, right? And so you start to see it's a sport that needs a little bit more to go into it, and you're gonna need more people there with you. So to get African Americans' attention, I got to make it a little bit to get in. I have to make it a little bit cheaper because now they're changing it where to be seen, you need to be on a travel ball team. Where I didn't have to play travel ball when I came. I played high school baseball, went to the MLB showcases, and I was good. Right? You turn around now that you got to go to play on this team, do this, and that's kind of it gets expensive now. So you turn around and see that, but also you look at there's not enough of African Americans in the big leagues. So when I turn the TV on and it's a baseball game, I don't see anybody that look like me. That's what kids gonna say, right? The kids are gonna say that, hey, I don't see no one kind of. I don't know if I want to do that, right? Because when you're in the locker room, those are your teammates, but it's also a cultural difference where we can understand certain things that don't even have to be explained. And then just being around someone like that is just it's game changing. So when you see a NFL locker room or NBA locker room, you see it's a cultural difference, it's a shift. And um it's just not enough. It's not. I think that's the main thing is just getting more African Americans the chance to get to the big leagues and letting us there because I kind of think it's more on the business side of what's going on. Um, if we look at Jackie Robinson, and I once I got in tune with the business, I started looking at it. I looked at that movie a little different. I looked at 42 a little differently. After being in there, um, I saw him go to the Negro League games and see how many people were at the stadium. So the way I viewed it was my view shifted to I saw someone go and look at how much money he can make by getting these fans. So African American, black people were showing up after church to the games. You'll see in their suits just, packing out the stadium. I saw it that way once I got into the business side of baseball. Instead of when I'm growing up, you're just seeing is like we're seeing someone that's doing the right thing for black people, right? We grow up kind of seeing that way because we don't know the business side of it. But then you see like, oh, so once you start to shift that thinking and see like, okay, he saw money, right? And I don't want this guy. There's money, so now I can make more money if I now get Jackie Robinson into MLB. I also need him to be. You're hearing these things in the movie. I need you. I can't let you. You can't fight back, right? Because I need this to work, right? And so you started seeing these things of like, okay, mm. Now you fast forward to 2024, you start to see who's going to the games. So when you look at the attendance, because we look at all these numbers, you look at the percentages of, Latino, white, black, whatever other race. You break that down on a pie chart and look at the percentage of who's going to baseball games. So at that point, that's my target audience, right? So then I'm gonna say a lot of Latin people go to games, so that's what I need on the field. A lot of white people going to games, that's what I need. And you start to really see like, ain't no way, this is right. You like, yeah, I'm telling the truth. Y'all may not want to know what it is, but and ain't nobody gonna talk about it, right? But I'm not afraid to show you. They're like, bro, like I'm not lying. It's the truth. Like you can see go see for yourself. What I'm telling you, go and see for yourself, and you be like, okay, there is more, right? And I once you start to know the business, you start to see like, okay, it makes sense. Because as a business owner, you would do the same thing. I would think, who's your target audience? That's who I'm a target, right? And so you start to see it differently in a different light once you're in the business of it and watching how things go. It's not really about who is the best in a sense, right? It's just like what makes sense. So when you went back to the Soto contract, you started to realize like, okay, what makes it? It makes sense for him to be in New York, right? When you started thinking about how many Latin people are in New York, certain stuff makes sense. It wouldn't make sense for him to go to Colorado,
Yeah.
right? The
Yeah.
same way it makes sense for Otani to be on the West Coast. There's more Asian culture on the West Coast because it's closer to Japan, it's closer to Korea, it's closer, right? So it makes sense for him to be on the West Coast, right? And I think that's one thing that fans don't really they don't know because why would they know that, right? So I just think that is certain things when you look at it, be like, oh, that makes sense. Yeah, it ain't,
Representation. Got you.
Yep.
You know what? Let's Nico, get into some of these trending topics, man. As a professional athlete, we've seen a lot of burglaries of professional athletes in their homes. Most recently, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow
Mm-hmm.
just had this happen. What would be your advice to players when it comes to protecting their privacy in their homes when situations like this, or the potential for situations like this out there?
For sure. Um, I mean, those are tough things. Like, if I can give advice, and I mean, certain things are just kind of is what it is. For one, if they find out where you live, that's either they followed you home and you didn't know they followed you home, or it's someone that been at your house. Like, who you have at your house? And that's one thing I do. I don't let a lot of people at my house because you start to realize like what's inside your house and what you work hard for and your house, how nice your house is and your car. You start to understand, and I've had my car stolen before, so you start to realize like, oh, I feel violated. And so you gotta imagine someone being in your house, like like someone breaking into your house is a whole different thing when you talk about your peace. Um, so I think it's just being real. You just gotta be careful with who you're around, who you hanging around, who's in your house, who you invite over, the friends you keep, the company you keep. Head on a swivel. Is there someone following me home? Do I live far enough away from the stadium? And I think at that the celebrities they are. Sometimes that extra security is a thing that you're gonna have to pay for, and that just go with the territory of you being in that spotlight and who you are. And sometimes it's not fair, but Joe Burrow is a big name. Mahomes, that's a big name. Kelsey, big name. right? So at that point, you start to realize, no, like when you go out, security. When you ain't home, security's still there. When it's certain things that you start to recognize that you need, and at that point, I think they'll make the adjustments. But um, it's to me, it sounded like it was like somebody that possibly have been there before and gave them like, hey, that's where so and so live, and um, and they did their thing.
What do you think? Another story as it relates to the Bengals is Bengals running back Chase Brown. He jumped into the Salvation Army kettle during the win
Mm.
over the Cowboys. Do you think celebrations are worth it for the fans and for that moment, or should players be more cautious? I know you're a fan of sports.
I think it has to be relaxed in the sense of you to just understand how hard people work to play at a professional level, like a high level like that, right? And so if I decide to celebrate, as long as it's in the lines of I'm not disrespecting you, I'm not doing something inappropriate, like you're keeping it, you gotta have some class, like you're not just out here, whatever. It's still entertainment, right? Like it's gonna be entertaining. Like some people went to the game to see, oh, if Odell catch a foot, touchdown, what celebration he gonna do?
Yeah,
And now, right? So you want that freedom for the players to be able to express themselves, as well as we know what go along with certain things. Now, usually how fines work, I can kind of pick where I want if I want to donate it to this, where I want the money to go, what happens with the fine money. So if you jump into the salvation thing, like okay, I don't think it's no problem. And then the fines, once you figure out how the fine system works, as the player, you just figure out if you want to do that, and that's the business side as well. Like being in tune with, I know you may want me to celebrate. I know the family will celebrate, but guess what? I got two kids at home, and they can use that fine money too, right? And so you start to look at the business a little different too. And I think you kind of protect that as a player, but at the end of the day, you entertaining. And some people go to see this, and they may never be able to see this player again. They can say, "Oh, I saw so and so do the moonwalk after he got a touchdown. Now he's playing football because." So I think that that's a big part of the game too.
yeah, no doubt. Let's get into this other segment. It's called Fair or Foul. Obviously, we'll throw a couple things at you. If you agree that it's fair, you'll say so. If you think it's foul, what I'm saying, I'm more interested in making sure we get your why as it relates to
Mhm.
that. So we know that there have been a number of NFL coaches who've been fired this season. And is it fair or foul to fire these coaches mid-season?
I said fair because they do it to players. They'll release you, and it's just thanks for your time. And but coaches, I think sometimes coaches possibly could be a little different because they went and did you have your game plan, you have the way the team's gonna be ran, you have this, you built this, right? So when they go in and fire them, I believe they thought this out long enough to make that decision. So I feel that it should be on the table, because as players we do the same thing. We get sent down, get fired, and released, and you sitting there like, okay, well now what? And you may see a coach, go from here to here to here, and they just rotate coaches, and he's able to provide. Not saying that he shouldn't be able to, but now this player can't find a job, and you can't tell me that his family is more important than his family, right? And I think that it go the same thing where everybody's accountable, and it's just part of the business. So I feel that everybody should be in that situation where it can happen. Don't think it can't happen. So I think that's kind of what they're showing, that get these players and these teams starting to win. So everyone's held accountable. I think that's kind of what's going on. That's why I would say it's fair.
Yeah, no doubt. I know that Randy Moss has been in the news because of what's what his health condition. And I know he acknowledged kind of taking some time off. They were talking about his eyes. But recently, Larry Fitzgerald and Tom Brady announced that Randy Moss has liver cancer. All right. Now, it was shut down by Randy Moss's son. So was it fair or foul for them to share that personal news before Randy Moss or his family addressed it publicly?
Yeah, that's foul there. That's foul. You need your privacy. It doesn't matter what you are because he's dealing with that. Or he's not. Either way, if it's, happening or not, that's not something you play about and that's not your place to tell. So I wouldn't agree with saying it. Like, if it's your own news, meaning you're going through it, then share it. But if it's not your news, it's not your place to share. Unless Randy Moss has come to you and said, hey, I can't be there to tell him, you say it for me.
Got it.
But clearly, if his son's coming out, it's not the case.
Okay.
If his son's coming out and saying that this is not, this is not true, then I just feel they wrong for that. Even if it is true, you let Randy Moss come out and say that or express what's going on with his own life. So
Niko, man, thank you, man, for joining us, bro, on the locker room.